intro music. Yeah! Woohoo!
Alright everybody, it's been a while since we've done one of these, so excuse me if I'm rusty, but we're going to talk about crewing in STFC, specifically everybody's favorite topic and often requested, bad crew videos. Now, with that in mind, there are other things coming in the game, so don't worry, we will be covering those as they launch, so a couple of neat things that you probably have already seen news for, but we'll wait till that actually rolls out. Let's start with bad crew video number one. We're taking a look at seeing something that is bad because of where it is. Now, I love for these to be educational videos, right? I want you to understand why this works or doesn't work. So in the case of what you see on the screen currently is actually a good crew if you're a lower level player, but it's important to know why it is no longer valid at higher levels. So to do that, we're going to take a look at how Spock specifically work. Now, what you're seeing on the screen is Kirk Spock 5. You are going to get the loot bonus from 5 of 11 here. And in PvP, I don't really recommend this at all, but if you were, say, doing an Armada and maybe you were like a level 23 player, it's all you had, it does make a little bit of sense. But here's why it doesn't make sense for a G6 or even a G5 player or even a G4 player to use this combination. It's because of how Spock works. So even if you have it maxed, while the ship has morale, Spock restores shield health to an amount equal to 750% of the defense of the officers on the ship. Now, why is this irrelevant for this particular case use? Why can you not do that here? Well, as we've discussed before, you remember there was a time where Rev was reminding you, and even Esri Dax was reminding you that Spock doesn't go on the Enterprise. Well, it's because of how he works. And for the Enterprise ship would do what Spock did. And then for later on, it's simply because this number just simply cannot get to the point where it can contribute to your game, making this a bad crew. If you see a G4, G5, G6 player running this in the nicest way possible, nudge them and say, hey, look, I don't know if you know this, but you're hurting yourself with this crew. And again, if you're a lower level player, it makes sense to use this, right? You need that shield regen. Those fights are naturally going to last longer. And, you know, having that is useful. And again, you're combining that with Kirk, using his inspirational ability, you're getting the morale, and his leadership ability, you're getting the bonus to some of those officers' stats. But again, these are such small numbers in today's game. There are a couple things that just don't matter like they did when the game came out. Shield regen is nice, but not the biggest thing. And take it another step further, officer stats, yeah, very important, but those are very small percentages considering where we're at in today's game. But let's go ahead and move on to the next one. It gets crazier from here. This one is almost mind-blowing to me because it is a player clearly in PvP. I mean, nobody's going out with their battle miners and taking on this ship. So what ends up happening is, well, a Kelvin loses to a Cavort. Not something you see very often, but again, I tell people all the time that these are the type of things I see quite often in the game. I tell everybody who follows content, remember, you're better than you think you are, and you're definitely better than the average player because this game is complicated. What are we seeing here? Well, number one, we're seeing an officer that doesn't make sense to PvP at all, and that's obviously Chen. Now, many of you already know what Chen does. She reduces the hostile energy damage, specifically red hostiles or even your Q trials, but isn't helping at all here in a PvP match. Not to mention you also have Sulu, who, again, ranking fire does exist, but who's giving you the morale to use that ability? Nobody. And even then, 40% energy weapons boosting in today's world is absolutely nothing. For example, we've got things like this that jump it up significantly higher, and you're not getting that here. So again, that's just a singular example. This means nothing in today's game, and sadly, a lot of these older officers have gotten to the point where they really are only good for away teams. And just a quick little note here, Sulu is actually one of those because he has the pilot trait to be very useful at any level player for your away teams. A couple of really nice missions that he ties to. But what this PvP crew is not giving you is effective PvP. You're not going to win and will result in the battle miner, in this case, a level 32 ship, beating a level 42 ship handily. Again, these are both mid-40s players. So stuff that you need to pay attention to. Remember, not everything is always active. Understanding what states are, understanding what officers work in PvP can be difficult. You should watch Rev Deuce videos. Let's move on to another example. So here's another one, and this one is equally as wild. We've got another Kelvin, and I promise I'm not trying to just pick on Kelvins, but this is almost like a mishmash kitbash.
Okay, gosh, it's beautiful.
Of somebody trying to put together a PvE hostile grinding crew that ended up in a PvP situation where a Kumari of all things takes down the Kelvin. For those curious, this is a higher level G4 player, level 49. So not only is the Kelvin a little bit underpowered for that level player, but also crewing ask a lot of questions. Now again, let's just work under the assumption they're not trying to PvP here based on the 3 officers and try to figure out what they're trying to do. And let's explain why this isn't optimal. So number one, they have TOS Kirk, who traditionally has always been used as a PvP officer, though he has some drawbacks even in that situation. But it's all we have to go on. At the start of each round, the ship's health is above 30% of its starting value can inspire morale. To be very clear, this is not a PvP centered ability. It is a regular ability. However, it's important to note that when you drop below that, you lose morale. And then you have the captain's ability when fighting players. There's your PvP centric. Start of each turn, as long as the ship has morale, increases the damage of energy weapons by 50% of the total defense of all officer stats, and that is a cumulative ability. So it has a little bit of old school strength. Many of you might have remembered using TOS Kirk, TOS Spock, TOS Uhura, things like that. But why is that irrelevant here? Well, number one, you've got it combined with officers that just don't make much sense. Strange New World officers, and then, I'll be honest, a lady that this is one of the first times I've ever seen her actually on a bridge. Organ Donor increases the amount of broken parts you get from killing hostiles, is a below deck ability, and the officer ability is increasing your critical hit damage by 4% every time your shit is hit by an attack fighting non-armada hostile. So again, a cumulative hostile ability. I honestly have not seen people try to use her as a hostile or as an officer for hostiles, but here we are. Usually it's the below deck that you might see Picard Beverly Crusher getting activated. I'm just sitting there waiting to even upgrade her. I don't even use her. And then, of course, we have another officer here in the Strange New World group, and we've got so many officers to keep up with now. It gets kind of tough.
5 hours later.
Right in here, and there's Uhura. Now, I've used Uhura quite a bit, and here you have the increasing armor, shield deflection, and dodge by 1800% when attacking hostile battleships from an interceptor. So this fits here, but again, you've got a quasi PvP officer, kind of halfway to us, Kirk. You've got an odd type of hostile officer, and then you've got Strange New World Uhura. So again, in full synergy, if you were running a Strange New World group, Strange New World Pike, Strange New World Uhura, Strange New World Hammer, it would make more sense, right? But as it is piecemealed like this, kitbash, to use a Star Trek phrase, doesn't work. Don't do this, okay? Don't do it to yourself or you'll end up on a Rev Deuce video. All right, another one to kind of like wrap your brain around. This one I find very unique because, well, it's not necessarily bad. You wouldn't have thought of probably doing this. So I like seeing these unique combinations. Let's talk about it. And is it actually any good? Let's start with Galron. Now, Galron is an interesting one, and I don't think a lot of people understand how Galron works and what this actually means. 800%, as you can see where I have him here, of crew health to shield deflection. We'll talk about what that is specifically here in a moment, but PDI Galron right there. Then you have Lieutenant Picard, which you actually got released. This is something that if you made any type of small purchase, you would get Lieutenant Picard in the very early sets with synergy, and finding him is, wow, right here. There's Lieutenant Picard. Then you have this ability, increases your apex barrier by 4,000 versus non-armada hostiles. Again, for a hostile grind, completely fine. You need a little bit of apex barrier. He does have nice synergy. And then you have plus 10% to shield health. Now this is very relevant to the point of this being a G4 player on a monobeam. That's not going to help out at all. And then last but certainly not least, we've got Data. Now, Enterprise E Data is a very, very good officer, just like Mirror Data is, which you can see right here. But to find Enterprise E Data, we're going to go up just a little bit more. We'll find him here, and he, of course, is one of the most well-known and well-used PvE officers in the game. And I don't really have a huge issue with, Lieutenant Picard, Enterprise E Data, Galron. Like, everything makes sense. It's not a bad crew in the essence of like, oh, this doesn't work. Why would you use it here? It just doesn't make a ton of sense when you would assume a player in a upper G4 ship would have a better crew loadout, right? For example, Pike Moreau, E-Data. Even if you wanted to just say, leave something out to auto grind, maybe you do something like the Strange New World crew, because E-Data is generally somebody's primary use. So if you were leaving this overnight, why is it not on a better crew? Again, PM E-Data or Mirror Picard. Again, there's a lot of different crew combinations to use if that's what you were going for with Janeway, Doc, E-Data, Pike Moreau, E-Data, etc. This just doesn't end up making a lot of sense running these together. Again, they technically work, but is it optimal? No. And a lot of us is understanding how it works. So on that Galron note, I want to really show y'all specifically what are we talking about? Shield deflection. Well, you actually go into your ships themselves. When you scroll down, you'll see shield piercing. You'll see shield deflection. So that's specifically boosting your explorer specific trait so that you can get better mitigation scores. There's a lot better ways to get mitigation, including Picard Beverly Enterprise E data, Pike Moreau Enterprise E data. Both of those will likely give you max mitigation. They should definitely give you max mitigation, plus magnify E data's ability. So best to run with something like that. Although you can kind of see the wheels turning. This player's trying to figure out a good PvE crew, really understanding what works. And the thing is, in this game, these big numbers look great, and they're not great. Just like that crew. Here we are with another one that makes you go, what are they doing? So this one is led by Burnham. Then you have Yuki and Chen. So we already know what Chen does. Again, Chen, one of the most well-known officers in Star Trek Fleet Command. If you don't know how she works, well, I already explained it earlier in this video. Hit the rewind button, why don't you, on your old VHS there. Surely you're watching this on a VCR. But let's talk about what this actually does. We got Michael Burnham right here. Again, another officer you see I've not upgraded, but Burnham actually is useful as a captain, as one of your speed officers. So if you're running a speed crew, I actually have no issue with Burnham, especially if you're trying to load out multiple speed crews. You can have 4 good speed crews in the game today if that's what you're wanting to do. And you might even see Burnham used in that way if you're doing PvP arenas or something, but not really in the setting that you see on the screen here. So you do have the speed improvement. You also have this ability right here when fighting players. Each weapon tech this opponent removes 55% of the total attack of officers on ship from your opponent's shield health. So it's a shield strip ability, but not a super strong one. Speaking of shield strip abilities, that's generally the only reason to use Yuki in today's game, because Yuki, this 500% to Romulan ships just isn't really cutting it. Again, just how the game has progressed. So much has changed. This just really isn't doing it for you. But that captain's ability, which is a flat 10%, no synergy, is still quite good. So it just depends on what you have. But again, doesn't make sense here. And then finally, you've got 2 PvP officers paired with a PvE officer. It just doesn't work, ladies and gentlemen. These are just like some of the ones we pulled out of March. Like, these are just a handful of examples. And y'all been asking for these videos to come back, so here it is. These are some of the worst crews from March 2025. But the good news is, you can see that players are thinking. They're trying to figure things out. And if you're in this video, you're also trying to figure it out. And we greatly appreciate that, because learning in the game, it should be fun. It should be a process. Hopefully you enjoy it. If you did, go ahead and let me know what you thought. What was your favorite crew that you saw in this video? What just made you go, why would you do that? I want to know. And last but certainly not least, do me a huge solid. Like the video. Yeah, hit that thumbs up button. It helps out the channel tremendously. And if you do it, you just might save a baby puppy or a baby kitten. Kind of redundant, because puppies and kittens are babies. I don't know. If either way to help the channel, that's appreciated too. Love you. Live long and plunder. Stay safe with the Space Cowboys. Deuces, that's me. Hope you enjoyed another Bad Crew video. See you on the next one.
An even better outro than the intro. For the Empire and glory to your house.